Hello and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to start a series of videos where I'm going to be talking about my time shooting images in Venice, Italy. Venice is where I'm from. I spent basically half of my life growing up there. Maybe not half, maybe a third, let's say. You know, basically when I'm not in school, I was there until a certain point. It is where I feel very, very much at home. I have such a strong connection to Venice. Growing up, going there, visiting family, visiting the city, really immersing myself in the experience of Venice is what I was able to do from a young age through my teenage years and now as a young adult as well. And one of the things that's very special to me is being able to share that with my wife now through my artwork, which is photography, with the world, kind of how I see the city. I was able to go there for about 10 days and I got a very solid amount of work. I went there a couple of years ago as well, also taking photography, and I don't think I did. I felt very strong about how I did on that trip, and actually a couple of those photos have been exhibited, so I was very proud of that. And I think I did even better this go around, and I was shooting on my EM1 Mark III. I think I really understand the personality of this camera and I think it gets me. So I think working in this setup, I think I did pretty well. The first video that I want to talk about is just a general selection of images, but I'm going to be talking about different principles like layering, getting cinematic images, golden hour, locations like shooting on public transport. So I have a few different ideas for videos. So these aren't going to be like the 6 best images from Venice, but this is just going to be an intro, and hopefully it'll get you interested in checking out other videos that I make about Venice and subscribing to my channel in the meantime. So I gotta say it at the start of the video is what they tell me to do. Let's go ahead and get right into it. 6 images from Venice to just go ahead and get started talking about Venice and photography. This first image is from San Marco, Piazza San Marco, which is kind of the main hub of tourism in Venice. It's the big square. We have the Ducal Palace on the left side, kind of behind a crowd of people, big light poles, and in the far back, we have 2 elements that are very important to the city. So we have San Giorgio Campanile, which is bell tower, between 2 of the light poles, and on the right we have the winged lion of Venice, which is kind of the symbol of the city. You've seen like the flag of Venice, or it's St. Mark's symbol, and we're in St. Mark's Square, Piazza San Marco. So beyond this, I think there's a very cinematic element to this image with all the people kind of at the bottom, kind of creating this sea that's kind of out of focus, and actually this woman at the bottom right who's out of focus, but you can, tell it's a woman and walking by. I think that kind of makes this image work to me because it adds like a story element. Kind of, we're looking past the people here and we can see the lovely architecture of the square. The San Giorgio in the distance is kind of the main thing that's actually in perfect focus. But I think this is a great image that kind of is a spread of Piazza San Marco. So I was very happy with this. This was actually for my very first day in the city on this trip. So a little bit of jet lag, but I still got the photo. I got this image of this gondolier near Rialto with, a group, a small, actually kind of sizable group now that I'm looking at it, people like 5 at least. And he's taking off, they're taking pictures of the Rialto Bridge. You can see all these other gondoliers in the background, the vaporettos in the background, the water taxis in the background. And he's kind of in this perfectly frozen moment of rowing the boat in the canal, which is quite busy, but this kind of feels like a peaceful moment. The water doesn't look rough or anything. And I like the color, the canals in Venice have kind of a greenish tint to them at times, depending on how the light's hitting it. So that's kind of gives this this green vibe to the picture, which I think is actually pretty nice. He's in the kind of the traditional gondolier like outfit with the black stripes and the hat. So I think this is a pretty cool image of just getting kind of a sense of one of the very popular attractions of Venice, which is going on a gondola ride. Here is a very cool shot, if you ask me anyway, of a gondolier waiting kind of for somebody to take his bait, I suppose, and ask him for a ride. This is near Ponte dell'Accademia, one of my favorite bridges, and actually, like, you might think like I darkened the shadows here or something, but this is more or less how it came out of the camera and more or less what it looked like in real life. I was like, this is really a cinematic kind of set piece here with like the bright green umbrella, but then kind of the light cutting through and hitting the gondolier, but his hat covering his eyes a little bit, but you can see he's smiling. I think he was joking with like the waiter at the restaurant there, and there was one of his colleagues nearby that they were just kind of chatting a little bit. And again, he's got the hat, the shirt. I just think it's a really nice portrait kind of from a distance of this guy with cool elements around. We have the gondola service like sign that's going to tell you how much it costs and everything, and which kind of just adds a little bit even more context to what we're looking at. I really like how isolated he is from the darkness with the other elements that kind of create this the story around it. So very happy with this image. This is from several days on. We went up the Campanile de Bell Tower in San Marco, and I'm shooting down towards the square. You can see there's some construction going on at this point in time, bottom left, which actually I was thinking in my head like, wow, that's going to ruin every one of my pictures, but I don't mind it. And we have this couple kind of dancing around, which is super sweet. You know, honestly, if you're ever in Venice, go to San Marco in the evening. They'll be playing music and you can dance. It's lovely. It's really romantic. But I thought this was a really fun scene. They're kind of isolated. There's nobody really around them, which is kind of rare. It's a really sweet image, if you ask me, with the scale also of the square. Their isolatedness kind of creates a nice romantic moment that, you know, if you can look at this image with like a nice violin in the background, there's a story there. Next, one of the themes of this trip was Vaporetto rides, and like stay tuned for the video when I talk about that. I think I got a really nice, good amount of work that I'm really happy with on Vaporetto rides. Here we have somebody waiting on a Vaporetto, which is just a water bus. I guess I should have said that, but leaning over with his hand on the other side of the glass. And one thing that I really liked of the glass on the kind of the dock here where you wait for the Vaporetto is I kind of created this orange tint to everything on the other side because they kind of had to have this color tone to them. Really helps me create some interesting layering of images and coloring on images as I moved forward. But I think it makes his hand kind of stick out, and his reflection, his hand kind of goes over his reflection, which is kind of an interesting kind of composition for this fella. He's looking down at his phone and his face is kind of cut off by the wall. So it's very like personal, private, kind of somber looking moment, but really he's just a guy waiting. But you know, we don't have to be too literal with it. We can kind of assign stories to images like this. Kind of a sad like waiting moment, like just ready to get going. Shadow on his side, but the light is hitting his shirt and kind of reflects a little bit up on his face so that we can see kind of a little bit of his expression. And I like that we don't see his eyes. It's kind of similar to the gondolier picture from earlier where we understand the expression without having to see his eyes. So he kind of preserves a little bit of his anonymity. From another time I went up the bell tower, it was actually a pretty dreary day. All the birds are kind of hanging around on the ground because it's super windy. I guess they don't really like flying when it's so like such a windy day. There was a lot less people on the second week of my trip there. I guess also in part because of the weather. We have this person here standing with an umbrella, brightly colored umbrella that really sticks out. And I got a moment when they're pretty much solo. Well, they are solo in this little sliver of Piazza San Marco with all these pigeons scattered around, which is kind of an interesting perspective on the relationship between people, the pigeons in the square. I don't know, there's something there with it. I like how he's kind of standing off the lines throughout the square so you can still see that design and architecture, which is really nice to see. And you can see the texture of all the tiles, the stones in the square. So this is a really cool shot. Black and white, kind of grainy, gritty, hidden person, but you can see they're standing there. Maybe they're on the phone. Maybe there's kind of a somber feeling to it. I don't know. It's a really solid image to me. I think there's definitely some story there, and I'm really happy with it. So thank you for watching this video. This is a general take on my experience photographing Venice, a couple of different things, but really it's an intro to all the other videos that I'm going to be talking about that have a little bit more specificity to them, like I mentioned before. So please subscribe to the channel and check it out. I really have some work that I'm proud of that I'm loving. Like I'm loving the opportunity to share here. Stay tuned. I've been Tony King. I'll see you in the next one, because you better be there.